Hello and welcome to another episode of Women Are the Medicine, the show dedicated to sharing wise words of women who have something the world needs to hear. I'm your host Naz, and I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, whose dose of wisdom is going to help you shift your relationship to one of the biggest areas in your life, money. Sara-Jane Maxwell has got a ton of letters after her name. She is a certified professional financial coach and founder of Wealth Coach. She empowers individuals, couples, groups and organisations to find the joy in connecting to their money and future. Drawing on 20 plus years experience in the financial services industry, she is passionate about injecting colour and energy into the grey of finances. What a breath of fresh air. Welcome, Sarah. I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be chatting to you today.
Oh, absolute pleasure. From the moment I met you, I was like, I need this woman in my life. So tell me and tell the listeners, what on earth is a wealth coach and how did you become one?
Gosh, that's a really big question. So becoming one was actually not by accident, but I met a wonderful lady called Simone Ganessen, who pioneered the term financial coaching in the UK. And I met her because I thought there must be more to financial services than just simply telling people what to do. And that was my experience of kind of 20 years in the corporate world, that, you know, we were all the experts. We told people what to do and they just followed our instruction. And as somebody who absolutely detests rules, that just didn't really sit with me very well. I thought there must be another way to do this. There must be a more encouraging, a more kind of, I don't know, lighter way to do this, I guess. And it's the thing that we're not taught at school. It's the thing that we're generally not taught in our households. It's the thing that's, unspoken, really, oh, it's rude to talk about money. We don't talk about money. So just this idea of me being the professional and just telling people what to do just did not sit. So finding Simone and hearing that the world of finances and coaching had been put together and been made a thing really excited me. So I wasn't really sure what it was going to lead to, but I went and experienced a week of training with her down in Brighton in person, which was magnificent because I got to, stay away from home for a week by the sea in a hotel. Gorgeous. And the things that she taught me in that week were just absolutely magic. It was my first foray into coaching. So it was learning about, the differences between empathy and sympathy, all these great, big, wonderful and important things that weren't taught in financial services. So all the emotional side of money, all the really important stuff that sits in our subconscious that drives our decision making. There was some practical stuff, but it was pretty much entirely non-practical, and coming from the real practical world of financial services, of telling and knowing and being the professional, it was just lovely to have that idea of opening somebody up and inviting them to understand more about themselves. So that was the starting point, and that was my kind of initial invite into the world of coaching. I loved it. I thought a week is definitely not enough, and then I went on to take heaps more training in coaching, because coming from an advice background, I thought that it was really important to make sure that I was going to be a coach in that environment and I wasn't just going to tell people what to do. So yeah, my passion just really grew from there, and that's where Wealth Coach was created, and bringing a lot of colour and energy and joy to money, because I had seen it, I think, in the past as this kind of grey and blue, very professional, has to be certain colours, can't be colourful. And when I was designing Wealth Coach, I was bringing in the full rainbow of colours. I mean, you can tell from how I'm dressed, I love colour. I'm hardly ever wear just one colour, and I almost never wear black. So it was really important for me to bring myself into the business and to bring all of that colour in. So that's kind of the background and how it all came about. And, many people said to me, oh, you're not going to be able to have a business in finances and where it's covered in colour, people are not going to trust you. And I thought, no, I've experienced a lifetime of, walk into rooms of professional people and them kind of looking at what I'm wearing and going, oh, is she going to know what she's talking about? And having to almost prove myself. And I thought, no, I'm going to connect with people in the way that I wish to connect with people. And it's been awesome, because the clients and the people that come to me are energized by colour and doing things a bit differently and wanting to kind of connect to money from their body and from the joy of it, instead of it being that grey, cloudy thing that's held really separately. So sorry, that was a really long-winded answer.
No, it was fantastic. And there's so many directions that I could take this in. But, your energy and your excitement and your passion around this is palpable. And I feel like every time I get in a call with you, or I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person, I'm just like, I just want to sit next to you and absorb the energy around this, because money, it's such a big part of our lives, isn't it? It kind of influences every decision that we do. Can I afford it? Do I have enough? Where am I going to get? Where's the next set of money coming through? And it's so big. And yet you're right. We're not taught about it in school. We don't have a good relationship with money necessarily, unless we're taught it. And I think as well, and I'm going to generalize a little bit here, because I think unless you're a woman who's in the financial sector, or you're particularly like you've trained yourself to understand money can feel quite intimidating. And I know from my perspective, I've had this belief that I'm not good with money, and I kind of have lived that out. So dispel some of the myths for me. Where do you start with people who come to you and they're like, I need some help. I need some help with money, my mindset, getting more money in. Where do you start with people?
I generally always start with your relationship to money, because it's the biggest driver. So that message that you just talked about, I'm not good with money, so many people carry that message. And when you carry a message or a belief like that, you'll know this because of your work as well. You just find ways to confirm that belief that you've got. So until it's disturbed, until you become really aware of how that message is impacting you, you will just let it drive. You'll say, oh, I'll buy that. I know I can't afford it, but I'm not good with money, so it doesn't matter. It's just the way I am. Instead of, I really wish to disturb this belief. I really wish to have a different one. This belief probably isn't mine. It was probably handed to me by my parents or caregivers or someone at school or a friend or a partner who told me I'm not good with money, and I just let that stick. I let that stay. So the first piece is that awareness. It's almost pulling out, what are these beliefs? Some beliefs will be helpful. Some beliefs will be helping you to have the life that you choose. Other beliefs will be not so helpful, and they're the beliefs that we wish to shake up, disturb, find out where they're from, get rid of them, choose new ones. I say that as though that's all really easy. There's lots of different ways to do that. It can be easy, it can be a little bit more tricky, because our brains are wired in these paths that we believe that to be true. But once we become aware of it and we wish to change it, it's very possible to change it. So that is the first step. It's this awareness, understanding what are the labels, what are the beliefs, how helpful are they, how unhelpful are they, what do we wish to change? And then it's the process of changing it. Then it's the process of creating these new, more empowering, more powerful beliefs that help us to switch identity sometimes. Because if we've held an identity for a long time, changing that identity can be so powerful. Choosing that actually, yes, maybe I wasn't good with money yesterday, but today I'm practicing being good with money. I'm having a go. We can move along. We don't have to go straight to, I'm brilliant with money now. I know exactly what I'm doing and I can do it. And everything's going to be awesome. I mean, great. Sometimes it can be that quick. But yeah, we might move along the rungs and move towards what a really brilliant, fantastic outcome might look like.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I know I've done quite a bit of money mindset work, and some of the most powerful shifts have been recognizing that people who have money, so in my view, people who are wealthy or people who are rich, instead of seeing them as different to me, how are we the same? Where are the commonalities? And I think there's a real divide, isn't there? If you're born into a family that perhaps hasn't had much wealth, or you've kind of struggled, or you've seen your family struggle, you do carry the story, the narrative that it's just how it's going to be, and that those people over there who've got these wonderful wealthy lifestyles and the freedom, financial freedom, they are they're different to us somehow, or you've got to work really, really hard to get there. Like either you've got to pay some sort of price. That's the other thing. So it's either comes naturally to them because they're from a different set of society, or it's so hard to get there. You've got to break your back. And I think, many people do. They become slaves to the system of I've got to get more money and I've got to get more money.
Yeah. There's so many things in that. So the work hard thing, I want to kind of choose first, because most people have got this work hard thing. So work should be hard. This is going to be difficult. It's going to be really hard. Now, what that can lead to, especially in women, I see this, is when it's not hard. So when we're in flow, when we're doing something that we're really good at, we want to make it free. It's easy. How can we charge for that? It's what we love to do. Whereas actually, where we're in flow and we're delivering this awesome impact for people, that's where we should be entirely charging our worth, but we're not, because we're like, I didn't have to work very hard for that. That came quite easily. I created that impact and it was really straightforward for me. So that's kind of another thing. So if you hold this work should be hard belief, you can find yourself making work harder than it is to earn the money, because, well, it needs to be hard. It should be hard. If it's not hard, how do I charge? So that's a big one. That, the work hard is huge and can show up in so many different ways. Whereas when we can amend that belief or kind of challenge it a little bit to, when I'm in flow, I'm delivering my best work and I'm delivering great impact, therefore I can value myself and I can charge what I'm worth. That's totally different to if it's not hard, it needs to be free.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me, I think it's an anecdote about Picasso, and a waiter, I think, asked him to draw something on a napkin, and he drew like one of his famous peace doves, and said, that'll be $3,000 or whatever. And they were like, "What? It's just taken you 20 seconds?" He's like, "No, it's taken me 50 years to be able to do." It's like it's effortless because I've studied it. It's part of who I am. It's my gift. So yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. If it comes effortlessly to us, we don't value it.
Yeah.
It's so, and there's this thing, and a lot of people who listen to the show are entrepreneurs, or maybe they want to be entrepreneurs, and there's this real energy around charging for something and having to make it cheaper or affordable, and it's really it devalues you on a level that, like, I think it's so insidious, and then it affects every decision. And then you start, and I say this to my clients, if you are asking for discounts from other people, and then no wonder people are asking you to drop your prices, because it's just mirroring you.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I have been asked for a discount on a few occasions, and when I say no, I always do commend the person. I always say, well done for asking, because so often we don't ask. So often, we don't ask that question, we don't challenge. So I would never be offended by somebody asking for a discount. But it's an interesting one. It's a real interesting one, because you're right, what you put out, you get back. Yeah. And that's a really important part of the cycle, isn't it?
Yes. So tell me how we're not different from, I say we, how people who believe themselves to be different from those wealthy people over there, how are they not different? What do they just not have? Or what's the shift that they need to make?
Well, even just the term wealthy is interesting, isn't it? Because I work with lots of people, and even people that somebody might assume are really wealthy, maybe doesn't feel it. So wealth is a feeling. Wealth is an understanding of, what you wish to create and creating that. And it's not always related specifically to an amount of money, because you could be really wealthy and be hoarding lots of money and not be living your life. So you're not living a wealthy life. You've got cash, but you're not living a wealthy life. You're not feeling the joy. You're not doing the things that you want to do. And in the same respect, somebody might not have money but might live a really wealthy lifestyle because they're doing what they love, they have enough for what they need, and they're filling their life with joy. So the difficulty with this almost wealthy piece is you can look to somebody who has more money than you, but actually are we looking at the bigger picture of the lives that we're choosing? And that's the missing piece sometimes. I've worked with people who earn an awful lot of money, but they also spend an awful lot of money, and perhaps not on the things that they choose to spend the money on, and that can be a big thing. So yeah, the term wealthy, I think, can mean different things to different people, but to me, and the reason why I have it in the title of my business name, is because I feel like wealth is the overall holistic piece as well as money. It's the freedom to have it and to spend it, and to create that security for the future. So it depends on who you're judging, and judgment in itself is another thing that I always try to keep out of the room, because it's so unhelpful.
I know you're absolutely right. And I also think there's this misconception that people believe if they just had, if they had wealth, literally, if they were richer, if they had more money in the bank, that they would be happier, that their problems would be solved.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that. I believe they would just have the same problems, but they would just have more money in the bank.
Yeah. Or different problems. You're always going to have problems. No matter what is going on, you're always going to have problems. You're always going to have obstacles. You're always going to have things that you wish to overcome. Yes, having more money in the bank can sometimes make it easier, but actually sometimes it can make it harder, because depending on kind of what's going on for you and how you feel about needing to keep that money or save that money or what it's for or how you spend it, I think we can sometimes judge a person or a group of people, and actually they just have different problems to us. And it's a lot of wasted time looking to other people. Going inwards on yourself and thinking about what you wish to create is where the time is always best spent, because if we're spending any time in comparison with anybody else, they're just not us. They've got different things to us. We've got and yeah. So the whole comparison piece, I think, is difficult. And I think, looking at what you wish to create, looking at what you wish to have in your life yourself. And yes, you may be inspired by things that people are doing around you, but would you want to actually be that other person completely? Would you want to change your life and step into theirs? Or would you just want to take the bits that you like and bring them into your life in some way? What's it showing you, essentially? What's that showing you?
Yes, I love that. It's so important for us to understand that, we always can focus on what is that we don't have and see other people and say, well, they have the thing that I want. And there is that comparison piece. It's really, really not helpful, because until you don't know what life that other person's living, you're not in their shoes. It's very easy. We're presented on social media with everybody's highlights, their best life, everybody looking fabulous, all the filters, all the holiday snaps. And yet we know that underneath all of that, a lot of this is deep insecurity, that those, people who are probably having the time of their life are not usually spending all their time posting on social media. So
no, exactly.
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors here. And I just wonder if you wouldn't mind touching on, I don't know your thoughts on the system that we live in, that kind of, we're so obsessed with money, we're so obsessed with the material and having things in the car and the house. And I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but it does feel like we've lost our way. I think probably across most of civilization. I was going to say Western, but I think actually you can see it homogenizing across the globe, where, having things, having wealth, having private jets, having, there's this real desire to make it. And I just wonder your thoughts on the system that we're living in, this sort of capitalist system that's kind of driving this machine, is driving it. Is there another way? Can you see a different hope for humanity?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I hope so, because we're being sold to, aren't we, left, right and centre all the time, from all our media outlets, from kind of everything, from the phone that we hold, from wherever we're traveling to, from the people that we meet, from, we're just constantly being sold to. And that's another reason why it's just so important to go in on what you wish to create, what the life you wish to have, so that you can look at these, adverts or subconscious messages, and you can think, oh wow, that picture looks awesome, but do I actually want it more than these other things that I've planned in my vision? If the answer is yes, brilliant. It needs to come into the vision. You need to think about how you're going to build and create that thing. But if you go, oh no, that's a really well advertised thing, and it really made me think about it, but actually I don't wish to have it more than I wish to have this other dream that I've created. And I think that's a hard muscle to build, because we've been sold to forever, from the moment we were ever consciously aware of anything. But it's the most important, I think, muscle to build on what we see outside of ourselves. Is, do we really want this? Would it really make a difference in our lives? Do we want it because we're tired? Do we want it because we're feeling the pressure of having a really busy, shitty day? Or do we actually really want it? Is it really piquing our interest? Do we want to research it and look into it and spend some time there? And it's difficult, because at different times of the day or year or whatever, we might be more invited to want this thing, or to want this program, or to wish to live in this other place, or whatever the thing is. But we're constantly being invited to want more than we've already got. And sometimes that can be exciting and good and inspiring, but other times that can just lead to a pretty horrible comparison, when we just think, oh, we want all these things and we're not achieving them. So I think there's and actually, when you said earlier about the I'll be happy when, it carries so much emotion, the I'll be happy when. It's something that I heard quite a lot, actually, as I was growing up. My grandma always used to say, oh, everything will be good when we get this, she ran a haulage business, when we get this next truck paid off, everything will be great. Actually, everything was great where we were. There were no problems. We hadn't lost our home or anything like that. It was just the worry that she carried for any sort of debt had such an impact on her life, because she had such a message about not having debt, that she would think, okay, as soon as this is paid off, everything's going to be okay. And of course, when it was paid off, there needed to be another truck, because another truck had got old enough to need to be replaced, and there was more debt required. So that I'll be happy when, finding a way to be happy now with what you have, with the changes that you're able to make today, and the identity that you wish to show up in the world, is the most powerful way to be. And not
finding
to wait
it in
for
the now.
Finding it in the now, not to wait for anything. Don't wait for anything.
I just have to say, I love the fact that your granny ran a haulage company. Like, if you think about it generationally, for a woman to be running that kind of business, she must have been quite formidable.
Oh, she was absolutely magnificent. She was kind of my first major inspiration in life. She was a really, really magic person. She worked really hard. She ran a haulage business, which was obviously quite outside of her comfort zone, but she ran it well. But she also did lots of creative things. She did a degree in her 60s, and she just got involved in things. She was excited by life. She loved to dance. She was just a fantastic, inspiring, loving, wonderful human, who definitely made me realize that you could do whatever you wanted to do if you wanted to put in the time and effort. Like, when I think about her work, when she first started kind of going into higher education, she did like a night class on furniture design, and her drawing was I mean, she would absolutely say that it's abominable. It was horrific. Her drawing was, it was so bad. I thought, oh my goodness, how are you going to get through this? But she literally stayed up most nights until 2 a.m. practicing. And by the time she got a degree, she'd made furniture, she'd designed and made flat pack furniture. She could, draw dimensional drawing. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible to watch what a person could do, by just putting in the effort, because she was so inspired and she loved interior design. So just because she had that peak of interest, she wasn't for anything. She wasn't going to decide to be an interior designer. Yes, she made changes to, the home, and it looked fantastic, but, she was never going to use it for anything else, but she did it for herself. And I think that's one of the most important things that you can do, is just do something for yourself, because it brings you joy. It brings you to people you would have never met. She made some amazing friends who were like 18, 19, 20, and she's there in her 60s. So, yeah, she was tremendously inspiring for many reasons. Yeah.
Oh, what was her name?
Veronica.
Veronica. All hail Veronica for being a
Yes.
positive role model. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm really curious, actually, Sarah, about your own maybe internal transformation, because you mentioned something there that, Granny worked hard and was always trying to pay off the debt, and then the debt's it's there in the background. So there would have been some kind of money story there. Did you inherit any money stories and beliefs that you had to work with? Tell us a little bit about your own transformation, if that's relevant.
God, yeah, I mean, absolutely loads. I had the old money doesn't grow on trees a lot. That was a lot. That was one from my dad. Yeah, that message is so strong. So money doesn't grow on trees was a big one. So kind of a real understanding of money being quite important, and money being the thing that we needed to have the life that we chose. And, when things were tricky, we would all know about that, and we would all feel it. So yeah, that one was a big one. The I'll be happy when, massive. We've just got to get this debt paid off. We've just got to do this. We've just got to do the other thing. And then we can be happy, and then everything will be amazing, as if like the world would change then. And it never did. And we always had that happiness, but perhaps we just didn't recognize it. So I definitely still have a saver and a safety mentality, and that's from childhood. So I have to really work on that. So when I talk about the balance, and what I use in my coaching process is the balance between the joy of the now and the growth for the future and the security. So I'm quite often heavily weighted on the growth side. So I'm quite often tipping over this way and putting a bit too much focus towards growth and the future. And I have to really mindfully nudge myself back to making sure the joy is there, making sure I'm not working too hard, taking some time out, doing joyful things, spending the money on the colourful stuff that I love. So I think, a belief can be so embedded that you will kind of almost never totally break free of it, but you kind of always need to keep an eye on that coming back, because they do rear their heads. So I know that about myself now. I know that I can have an overfocus on the future. I know that I can have almost a worry about, okay, is there enough? Is everything going to be okay? So I have to have a conversation with myself about that, and I have to make some notes, and I have to make some plans, and I have to do some practical stuff to satisfy myself that everything is okay. So it's the awareness, the kind of knowing around, okay, where do I naturally sit, and what do I need to build and create to make sure that I can have this happy life that I choose. How do I satisfy myself that everything is okay? And actually, if it isn't, how do I make a plan to make sure that it is? So it's all about that awareness of, where you're actually at, and knowing how strong those beliefs are and how much they impact your life, because there's a helpful element of money doesn't grow on trees. There is, it doesn't. it doesn't just land, I do need to do things to make the money come in. So it's not totally unhelpful that I've got that message of money doesn't grow on trees, but I know where it can be unhelpful. And that's if I get to this point where I'm not spending, or I'm worrying, or I'm not having the life that I choose, or I'm not booking the holiday. So it's just being aware of that, I think, more than anything, sort of knowing which way you naturally sway, so that you can kind of help yourself come back to something like center. And that's why in my process I never talk about there being specific rules or specific percentages in spending plans, because actually it's up to you. You can have the control and autonomy over your own life, but being aware of how that is flowing is what's important, and where things are sitting right now. So if you're sitting right over in joy and you've got no eye on the future, and you're just living in this joy section, but you're happy with it and you're in control and it works for you, and you're aware of what that might mean in 10 years time, I'm not going to tell you off. I'm just going to make sure that you are aware of that, and that you're it's on your mind a little bit, and you're thinking about it. I'm not going to say you must do this, oh my goodness, you haven't got a pension, I'm never ever going to judge or say things like that. I'm just going to say, okay, so this is where we are, this is where you are at the moment in your balance. Does that feel okay? Is that working for you? Would you like it to be a bit different? What messages are kind of coming in and kind of reinforcing these beliefs, and how do we disturb them a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like you're talking to me then, because I'm definitely a in the now person. I've definitely been living in the now, and for I sort of can swing between being absolutely happy and in flow, and the universe is supporting me and the money is coming in and I'm living in the now, and then all of a sudden something will happen and I'll be like contraction. And I remember someone saying to me, it's like kinking your hose when you
Yes.
and you just kind of like you stop the flow. And I just wonder what your beliefs are, if any, around the sort of energetics of money and the importance of believing that money is available and that it's coming and that it can come to you from other sources. It's not about manifesting money out of thin air, as you say, but is it helpful to shift some of those beliefs that people have and understand the energetics of money and where it comes from and what it is actually? Because it doesn't, like, we don't even have physical money anymore, really. It doesn't really exist. So what is it even?
Yeah, it's a way to exchange what we have for what we want, what we have for what we wish for. That's all it is. We hang all of this stuff on money, and actually the reality is it is just an exchange. It's a way that we kind of sell what we have for what we wish to receive. It's as simple as that. And you're right around the energetics. The energetics of flow are so important. Getting to those energetics of flow, I feel, are about both sides. So they're about your relationship. The energetics are really important, but they're also about that practical reality as well. Because what you talk about around the kink in the pipe, if you've got your kind of practical elements down, so if you've got a plan that you're working towards, it's got some sort of contingency, you understand it, it makes sense to you, you feel good about it. When those kinks happen, and they happen, the world happens, things completely outside of our control can happen suddenly, and we go, oh my God, that's a kink that I haven't even planned for or thought about. If you have some practical plans in place and some foundational stuff, it helps to carry you through those moments so that your energetics can still remain high and you can still keep this flow of abundance. That, okay, yes, there's a kink in the pipe, but this is the plan. So we've got a foundation, we've got I don't know whether you want to call it an emergency fund or whatever it is, as something on the practical side that helps to flow through those moments.
I love that it's a blend between the energetics and the practical, because I feel like if you go too deep into the practical, you just lose people, because it's not exciting. That's what I love about you, and going to be working with you, because you are so colourful and you bring such energy, and yet a lot of money coaches, money mindset coaches, I'd sat in just the energetics of it. And I feel like there's a real missing piece. And then when you combine them together, this is why the work that you do is so powerful. Yeah. So I wonder if, without giving any names, if you can give us a couple of examples of how you've helped people get from one place to another. And I think people might be surprised about the kind of clients that perhaps you work with, because being a wealth coach doesn't mean you just work with people who've got enormous amounts of wealth. You're helping everyday people to change their relationship to money.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so I can work with people varying from people who've got a lot of debt, who are really quite stressed and not really sure what to do or where to start. So sometimes it's just that support of being able to get everything down, make a plan, start to know that it can be different. It's not going to be like stuck with the head in the sand. So I can work with people who have are in a situation that they feel like they're never going to get out of, and then they get out of it, which is absolutely magnificent. And that is always two-sided. That's all. So the practical stuff's really important, because obviously we need to understand where the debt is, what the rates are, all of the practical information. But the messages and the stories and the labels and the judgment, they need to be worked on at the same time. Because if we're carrying a load of judgment about ourselves for getting into the debt, whatever the reason was, whether it was, in your control or not, whether it was because you just decided to spend for a whole year, like, it doesn't matter. But letting that go is really important, because carrying the judgment just helps you to stay there. Just helps you to stay in the debt, helps you to stay in that place. So I work with people who, have got significant debt, who wish to get out of it, who then do, which is awesome. To people who have significant amounts of wealth, and they've almost lost their ability to kind of control it or live life in a way that they choose, and they kind of need some support to connect to it as their own. Because that's an important part of it, and kind of making decisions about the life that you choose to have. Because I've definitely worked with many people who get to a position where they've almost done all of the things that they wish to do on the plan. So they've got to that I'll be happy when place, and they go, oh, okay, I'm here. Oh God, but what now? Like, and that can be a really big moment, because they might not get that desirable feeling. They might not get that happy now moment, because actually what they didn't realize was they were quite enjoying all that work to build up to get into the point of having, what they needed. And actually that the next fork in the road of thinking about what now can be a really big and interesting piece of work. And sometimes they're carrying like a wish or a dream that's not even theirs. So there's a recognition that actually this is not my wish or my dream. And when I really think about it, and when I really do some visualization, when I really do some work, when I really feel into this, it's actually very different. And that again can be a really magic moment, because you're watching somebody almost come home to what they wish to create, or what they might have a business that they would really love to deliver, and they make that happen. I mean, genuinely, I get to work with people and see them create quite magnificent things and make big changes in their lives. And whether that's going from corporate to having their own amazing business, or whether that's from going to having their own amazing business back to corporate, or whatever that might look like, it's that kind of piece of work of really helping somebody to feel into what they wish for and what they want, and to remove the shoulds and the judgment. And you can physically see a person lightening in front of your eyes, which is quite amazing, when they say the things that they've never said to anyone but they've held in their body. And that's quite a magic moment, when they say those things that they've held as shame, and that there is no reaction from me. And that's just it's as if you get to just see somebody grow about 3 inches taller right in front of you, and it's quite a wonderful moment. So Yeah, I work with many different people, and I also work with couples. And couple work is really interesting because, generally speaking, two people are quite different to each other. So, generally, um, people don't have the same type of mindset around money, or the same sort of attitude to risk, or the same kind of thinking about the future. So people coming together and gleaning that awareness on themselves, and then getting to share it with their partner and understand each other even better, is also amazing.
Oh, that sounds so, I mean, all of it sounds rewarding, but especially on the couples side of things. My background is obviously relationship mentoring and coaching, and money was always a big subject for couples that were, and women that would come. So such important and rewarding work. And I have to say, Sarah, I mean, when I met you at the Self-Love Revolution camp, we were both there as speakers, and you had us do an exercise where you got us outside and you got us in our bodies and visualizing. And I watched grown women crying, whooping, being stuck. Like, it was really, really obvious what state people were in. How and why is it so important for you to take people outside? I know that you said this actually as part of your coaching. You actually do some sessions with people so they're outside and there's space. Why is that important? What on earth has that got to do with money and wealth?
It's really interesting, this one. So sometimes you can just walk around your own living room and do it, and that's fine too, or just walk around a space. But there's something about being outside that helps your mind to be a bit more expansive. So the particular exercise that you're talking about, without giving too much away, I mean, it was magnificent to do it at the Self-Love Retreat. There was 45 women, and something that I guess doing that exercise, usually I'd do it with one or two people. So doing it with so many people had the added benefit of people helping each other. Oh, that was just so incredible to watch. And what I really love about coaching is that you're taking the person. So although I have the expertise in the money and the asking the questions and all of that, the person that I'm working with is the expert in themselves. And when they realize that, which they invariably do as part of this process, and they recognize that actually it's all in them, and they get to choose, and they get to see what the next thing is on the ladder of 1 to 10, and feel it and experience it and let go of things. It's just awesome to watch, isn't it? You see, because you're treating people as the experts in their own lives, so they then know, okay, yeah, I know what the next step is. I don't need anyone's input on the next step. I know what it is. I might need some support on how I'm going to take that step. I might need someone to come in and help me and hold me accountable, or help me to understand something, or mentor me. But I know what I wish for. Only I know what I wish for. Nobody can tell me what I wish for. So that's such a big part of the process, because it's so important that people consider what they actually wish for. Like, going back to what we talked about before, we're sold to all the time. We're told what we wish for, but what do we actually wish for? And that's the magic of getting into your own body, the visualization, the really feeling into what that is. And sometimes that can be a bit scary, because you go, oh God, oh my goodness, this is telling me something that I am not ready to hear. Oh my God. And if you're not ready, you might want to ignore that for a while, and that's fine. It's your choice, but it's going to show you this process is going to show you what you wish for. And it's your decision of whether you wish to create that or not. I've been really inspired by your journey. So yeah, tell me a bit more about that.
Oh, well, I've absolutely loved been on the road now for 20 months, so nomadic living with my husband. Like I said before, we're in South Africa, sometimes doing some work in Costa Rica, UK, Europe, so bouncing around a bit. And I have to say that it was something that I'd envisioned and had as a dream of mine. And the reality is that our visions and our dreams are really quite polished and shiny and perfect. And how it actually feels, sometimes I have to pinch myself and remind myself that I am doing the thing that I want to do, because sometimes the experience is even greater than I could ever have imagined. It's even better. But other times there are challenges. And I think that that's a really important thing to recognize here, is that what we're seeking, that sense of freedom, that sense of living in joy, is definitely an internal feeling. And it's not coming from all of the experiences that I'm having on the outside. I take it with me, and it's how I show up with some of those challenges. It is challenging to be on the road. I have literally worn the same clothes for 20 months, which is fine. I bought myself some new earrings every now and then, buy the odd piece, but essentially, we can't travel. I don't have a van. We're flying. We don't trying to mitigate that as much as possible. So you're taking everything that you need with you, and for that you're going to need to have sacrifices. It's hard to not be in a routine. You're traveling different time zones. You're not always being able to eat what you want to eat. You've got to be really disciplined when it comes to exercise, and it's not necessarily my strong point. Luckily, my husband is a real motivator. And then there's the entertaining piece, right? I love to entertain, but when we're on the road, unless we've got somewhere that's really beautiful and we've got friends nearby, not really entertaining. We're usually guests in other people's spaces, and that can be challenging as a couple when you want your private time. But I think the most important thing that it's made me realise, actually, Sarah, is what I thought I wanted for my life, the big glossy house, the lovely fancy car, which I did want. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have that. When I've got money, I'm going to buy myself this beautiful I-Pace Jaguar in blue, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that. And actually, being on the road for so much and living in all these incredible places, what I really want now is to put some roots down somewhere that actually is a bit more rustic and rural. And I want a place where I can have great vegetables and have chickens and have a big entertaining space and beautiful big kitchen, and have people to come and stay. So it's really helped me to get clarity on my vision for what it is that I actually want to build in my life. And I think, we were talking about this the first time that I met. My vision wasn't really clear because I got confused between, well, do I want the big shiny goal that I think I should have? Or actually, if I really listen to myself, do I want to have this beautiful home that is utterly unique and in nature? And you can't, you can't really have the both. You've got to choose. And I think, as many women do, we have this fear of getting things wrong. Like, if I make that decision, then, well, what if I wanted to make that one? And it kind of can put us in this paralysis. So I think actually feeling into what I really want in the body, and it's telling me, actually, you don't want the big glossy. You want something that is quite different and is still utterly, utterly special and beautiful and magical. And it doesn't mean I can't have the cosmopolitan lifestyle and be going out to lovely restaurants and, hanging out on boats and things. But it just means that I'm being true to who I am, what it is that I really want.
Yeah, I love that. And it comes back to that, who you're doing it for, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And, what's interesting is, because I've been doing this traveling with my husband, we've both kind of realized the same thing. And he's really keen to build a house or build an actual swimming pool or have some kind of, he's in his 50s, I'm in my late 40s. We're getting to the point now where actually let's do some of this stuff. So I think working with you going forwards excites me so much, because now I have something that I can bring to the table. I'm going, I want to work towards this. How can I do it with everything that I've got now? And maybe eradicate some of the shame around money. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's inherited stories, but I'm really excited about going forwards and doing more work with you. I'm just like overjoyed.
Yeah, I can't wait to. And I think that whole piece of, the experiences that you have and what you then wish for, because what you talked about before, if, somebody else saw your lifestyle, they could be really inspired by it and think, oh, she's got everything completely how she wants it. It looks magnificent. It's amazing. And actually, when you think about what you truly wish for, it's a little bit different now. So that's the piece of, looking on at somebody else. And like you talked about social media and seeing all of the kind of really good stuff and not maybe seeing some of the challenges. And those challenges are important, aren't they? They're important because they show you that actually you wish to take a slightly different direction, and you can start to think about what that slightly different direction is. So I love that. That's just like that's a real story in itself, isn't it? Kind of almost getting what you wished for on that vision and then thinking, okay, I'm going to take this to its next step, because there's elements of it that you love, obviously, and there's elements of it that you'll keep, but also those roots feel important.
And this is why I think it's important for people to actually go for something. Like, try it. If you want to spend the summer in the van, try it. Don't try and wait until it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect.
Yes.
You know, my husband and I could easily have put off going to South Africa. We did it on such a whim. We were like, right, let's do it. We'll book the tickets. And like within 4 months, we'd packed up our flat, rented it out, and we were gone, and we didn't really have time to think. And we've created so many memories, Sarah. I can't tell you how I feel like it's been 5 years, not 20 months. I feel like time has expanded and stretched out, because I'm no longer sort of living for the weekend or living for holidays. It's like, well, next week we're going to be in this place and hanging out with these people. And I just wonder have you found that as well? This summer is kind of like stretched out, and you've got so many key points in there that you would never have had if you had been at home.
No, absolutely not. I've loved that about it. But I've loved that there've been some plans intertwined to have me kind of be in certain places at certain times. I've really loved that side of it too. But I've loved the freedom of having weeks and moments where I could really be anywhere. Doesn't really matter where I am. I could be anywhere. And that's really exciting for me. I love the idea of, do I go to, so for this week, for instance, do I go to Northumberland, or do I go down to like the south of London, and kind of figuring out and go, where do I really fancy being, where's going to be good for me to work, obviously, and where can I see the people that I need to see. But there's the freedom in that. I've really enjoyed it. And like you, there's been challenges, sometimes, but they're totally outweighed by all the mega kind of experiences that I've had. And it's really shown me that that this life could very easily be for me, because I don't need very much. I think before I put everything into storage, because I'm such a lover of colour and things and books, and I thought, God, how could I live a life without all this stuff? And now all I'm thinking about is I need to get into that storage and get rid of loads of it, because there's so much of it that I don't need anymore. So it's been that process has been massive for me, even just sort of putting the stuff into storage, and the amount of things that you get rid of and give to charity. And I even did a car boot sale. That was interesting. But yeah, I know that I will downsize just the sheer amount of stuff that I have. I'd love to be a person who can live from a backpack and only need that stuff. I'm definitely not there yet, because I'm an absolute lover of things and colour and clothes and big earrings and all that sort of stuff. So I couldn't do the backpack at the moment, but maybe that's something to work towards, because I do think it would be awesome to just only need a bag of stuff.
Yeah, I think something magical quite happens, and I encourage anybody who's listening to do this, even if it's just for a month, is to have an experience where you just pack a bag and you go off, and if you're able to, and just like see how you operate without having all of the things. Right? I remember when I went to a friend's wedding in St. Lucia, I was there for 3 weeks, and we bagged first class tickets with vouchers, so we paid literally next to nothing for these £27,000 flights. It was obscene, like what they would have charged. And the allowance was you could take 2 big suitcases, so I did for a 3-week holiday. And now I look back and I go, oh my God, like what was I thinking, that I needed a different outfit every single day with different shoes and a different this. And I am a different person now. That was pre-COVID, but just see how much you can get by with, and it frees you from that trap of, if I buy that thing, I'm going to be happier. Because it is a sign when you're trying to buy something to make yourself feel better or to change your state, there's something you might not be dealing with there, right? It's, you want to buy things because you really want it, and that thing is going to add value to your life, whether that's just a bit of joy. But is that short-lived and then you're on to the next hit, or is it something that you really desire?
Yeah.
And I can't buy things on the road because I've got nowhere to put it. So
Yeah.
I'm, I spend my money on experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely different way of
Nice.
life.
Yeah, I love that. I'm definitely up for the one bag challenge for a period of time, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of doing it. You're in a van. You're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
doing it. But well, look, I know that I'm been talking on this show about working with you, and I'm doing that as a one-on-one basis. But you do have two really interesting programs coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how people might be able to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're both starting in September. So one is specifically for couples, and it's going through my process with your partner, which is quite a magic process to do with another human, especially a human that you live with. So we go through relationship to money. We go through all the practical stuff. You'll take a deep dive into everything together. We look at your vision for the future. We look at how you're going to make it happen. It's awesome. And I do the same program for individuals, and on the individual program, I invite you to bring a friend, so it's discounted if you bring a friend. So each of you pay a lower fee so that you can work with another person, so that you can help each other to be accountable, so that you can go through the process, so that you can carry it on afterwards. Because actually in your couple, you can have couples money dates every month forever if you want to, but finding that other person to help you with accountability when you're doing it as an individual can also be really powerful. And you'll couple up naturally on the program if you just bring yourself, or you'll work with a number of other people. But it's just great to have that other person to challenge you, to ask questions, to check in on you, to see how you are. So it's a real good way of going through the process if you're not up for doing it one-to-one. So the programs are brilliant for that. So I have a maximum of 10 people on each, so they're not massive. They're really lovely, and people encourage each other, and especially so Couples Talk Money. What Kim and I love is in the last session when the couples sort of thank each other for the inspiration, and they thank each other for sharing, and they've got to know each other. And last time it was like, oh, if you're ever in the area, come and visit us, because people are generally from different areas all over the country, so they don't know of each other at all. And whilst there's never a requirement to share, because you'll be working on your work in your own room as a couple, sometimes people will share, gosh, we found that work, we found that session in between sessions, we found our couples date a bit of a challenge because of whatever. And there's just, that is such a huge support for everybody in the room, because you just go, oh, we're not the only ones that have these challenges, because everybody has challenges. Yes, they might be different, but it's sometimes really nice to see and experience, oh, right, that was an angry situation for them. That led to a little bit of fire. That was difficult. That was a challenge for them to work through. So I think you can then recognize, everything isn't always going to be plain sailing. And sometimes going through a program like this, it will show you things that you need to change, or you need to compromise on, or you need to kind of understand each other a bit more. But yeah, it's magnificent doing it as a group. I really, really love it. And on the couples program, I do it with a lady called Kim, who's a couples therapist as well as a coach. So that's really brilliant for if and when we ever have sort of any challenge, if couples are going through anything and they wish to kind of talk through it in a therapeutic sense. So she brings a really wonderful element into what we do, into how to speak to each other, which is awesome. So I love the programs. So they're both enrolling now. They both begin mid-September. So the 17th and the 19th of September is the start dates for both of them, and they run every 2 weeks. So it gives you the opportunity to get work done in between sessions, which is really important. So you show up for the live sessions, you do the work in between, you do some work in session, but it's awesome.
And they are really accessibly priced. So I don't normally ask people for the investments, but will you just share with us how much it costs to join these programs?
Yes, they're really, really accessible. So $397 for the couples program. So you can pay a deposit and then pay in installments, or you can pay all in one go, whatever works best for you. And the individuals one is a super low price at the moment, because I really wish to have 10 people in this group. So it's $197 each, or $150 each if you bring a friend. So it's really accessible. But I'm so excited about getting a community of 10 people together to go through this process together, that I'm really accessibly pricing it for that.
It is truly wonderful. And if anybody listening needs some help with their money mindset, they're just getting practicals down, or just wants to revamp their relationship with money, I highly, highly encourage them to check you out. We'll put the links to your website in the show notes, obviously.
Thank you.
And Sarah, just finally, we always ask our guests this, which is, if you were made Madam President for the day, what one law or universal change would you implement?
This is such a big question, and I'm sure if I had lots more time to think about it, but you did helpfully WhatsApp me the question about an hour ago this morning, so I did kind of have a walk around and have a really good think about it. And the thing that really came up for me, because I know how damaging it can be and how it can show up in so many different ways, would be almost that magic of just removing negative judgment. Not only of each other, because that's one damaging, horrible thing that we pass on to each other, but even more so of ourselves, because it manifests in a shame that we then hold on to, that we try and keep it safe, and we keep it away from people. So we don't even want people to know about this self-judgment that we're having. So we keep it, and it just grows, and it becomes heavy. So I was kind of just walking around thinking, God, how magnificent would it be if we just didn't judge each other and didn't judge ourselves? Like, how wonderful. When we see all the political systems and how in, environments, people are just slating each other and pulling people down and not noticing the really good stuff. And we know, don't we, that if we focus on the positives grow. And if we focus on the negatives grow. So if we were all just here focusing on the negatives, what are we going to do? We're just going to be sinking ourselves further down. So I was just in a little world of my own, thinking about all the magic rainbows and unicorns of this gorgeous world where people weren't judging each other, and they were instead noticing the really good stuff and the really positive things that are happening, and helping those to expand and grow instead of shaming people and calling people and so yeah, I was in my own little daydream world of no judgment. So I really enjoyed that. So thank you for giving that to me.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really wonderful to have you. I love the wisdom, the way you deliver your message. Your energy is fantastic. And I'm absolutely I feel like you're a gift from the universe to have landed exactly when and where I needed you to be in my life. So thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the show.
That's such a beautiful thing to say. Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me. I love what you're doing here, and I love the challenge that you're bringing. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I'm so excited to learn so much more. And I can't wait to work with you.
Thanks, Sarah.